We're also delighted to announce that the Tour de Yorkshire will be going from 3 to 4 stages in 2018, with the ASDA Tour de Yorkshire women's race doubling in size from 1 day to 2 days. We've been pushing hard for those extensions for some time, and we're very grateful to British Cycling and to Bob and to Julie for their support in making that happen. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is on to this year's route. The 4th edition will take in all 4 corners of the county, 2 national parks, 1 area of outstanding natural beauty. We will visit 169 towns and villages. That's 43 more than last year. 101 of those towns and villages have never been visited before by either the Tour de France on its first visit to Yorkshire or the previous editions of the Tour de Yorkshire. We will cover a total of 711 kilometres, that's 221 more than last year, and 460 of those kilometres will be on roads that we have not cycled on previously. There will be over 7,800 metres of total climbs, that's 741 more metres than last year. There will be 8 intermediate sprints, 5 of which are new to the race, and 12 classified climbs, many more climbs not classified. Of the 12 classified climbs, 6 of those are new to the race. And for many of you, this statistic will be equally important. We will run close to all 6 of Yorkshire's Michelin-starred restaurants. I will announce the stages one by one and then give an overview of the whole route. Stage 1, on the 3rd of May 2018. Stage 1 will start in Beverley. And go through to Doncaster. The theme of the stage is arts and culture. The total stage is 182 kilometres, a neutralised 4-kilometre section at the start, meaning the racing part of the stage is 178 kilometres, and it goes through 43 towns and villages. There are 2 sprints and 1 King of the Mountains. The race gets going in Beverley, just as the 2016 Tour de Yorkshire did, in Beverley's historic marketplace. The peloton will take in the Georgian Quarter and pass through the 15th century North Bar Gate. Before heading out to the northeast of the town, we are heading to Ticton, where we will reach kilometre 0. We then go to Seaton. The riders will then begin a 16-kilometre loop which encompasses Hornsey Mere. The route will pass through the old town of this popular seaside resort as we visit the east coast for the first time in this edition. The race heads back into Beverley on the same road it came out of, but this time takes in the majestic Beverley Minster, one of the largest parish churches in the country. We're going on then to Skidby, and from here the race heads into the Yorkshire Wolds. We will visit Cherry Burton, Etton. It will be the 3rd time we visited Etton, the birthplace of Thomas Carling, the founder of the Carling brewing empire. We'll head to South Dalton. The spire of the South Dalton Church will rise in front of the cyclists as they approach. South Dalton, the home of the Michelin-starred Pipe and Glass restaurant, run since 2006 by James and Kate Mackenzie. We'll visit Water, one of the most attractive villages in the Wolds, and a nearby coppice inspired David Hockney's famous painting, Bigger Trees Near Water. The Côte de Bagby Hill will be our first King of the Mountains. It's a 1.9 kilometre climb with an average gradient of 4.6%. We'll visit Pocklington for the 2nd time. There'll be a brisk descent into Pocklington for the first sprint outside of Woldgate School, just as we did on the first stage this year. We're going to go to Howden. It'll be our first visit to Howden. The 2nd sprint comes in just before the race enters the town on the A6184. The race then enters this historic market town and passes its Grade 1 listed Minster, and we are heading south to Hatfield, and we're going to pick up Doncaster Sheffield Airport, one of Yorkshire's 2 international airports, and then it's full steam into Doncaster on the newly opened section of the Great Yorkshire Way. currently under construction, note. The riders will sweep past landmarks such as the Doncaster Dome and the world-famous racecourse before a flat-out sprint finish mark along South Parade, just as in 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, a big thank you to the children from St Nicholas Primary School in Bailey and to Michael's Primary School in Westminster. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Stage 2. Stage 2 is from Barnsley to Ilkley. Let's take a look at what Stage 2 has in store for our riders. The theme of this stage is Yorkshire Heritage. The total length of the stage is 149 kilometres, that includes 3.5 kilometres neutralised at the start. It goes through 44 towns and villages. There are 2 sprints and 3 King of the Mountains. The total climbing on this stage is just under 2,000 metres, 1,992 metres. This is the first time we've chosen Barnsley as a host town, although it did feature during the first edition in 2015, and we passed close by earlier this year. And it's great to be able to welcome the leader of Barnsley Council, Sir Steve Houghton, who's here today as well. Barnsley's famous sons include 3-time Olympic medalist Ed Clancy, who rides for JLT Condor, cricket umpire Dickie Bird, and television presenter Sir Michael Parkinson. The action will start on Church Street, and the peloton will loop around Barnsley's impressive town hall, which was opened in 1933 by the Prince of Wales. We head out from Barnsley to Cawthorne, the home of Cannon Hall Country House and Cannon Hall Farm, and we are heading then to Penistone, which provided such a warm welcome when the peloton passed through earlier this year. We're going to Worsborough. Shortly after the peloton has passed through Worsborough, they tackle the first King of the Mountains, which is a new one for us, the Côte de Blacker Hill, 1.6 kilometres with an average gradient of 5.8%. We're going to go then to Elsica, home of the ever-popular Elsica Heritage Centre, home of its newly conserved Newcomen beam engine, the first device which harnessed steam to produce mechanical work. It's considered one of the most important pieces of industrial heritage in the world, it says here. We then go to Wentworth, the home of Wentworth Woodhouse, which was the largest private residence in the UK before it was sold to the Wentworth Woodhouse Preservation Trust earlier this year. It comprises over 300 rooms, and the eastern front of 185 metres is the longest country house facade in Europe. We're then heading to Swinton for a sprint, which will be contested on Wentworth Road, the B6090. We're going to Conisbrough for our second visit to Conisbrough. The peloton will get a great view of the magnificent Conisbrough Castle as they enter the town. The grand medieval fortification was built in the 11th century after the Norman Conquest, monsieur. And Sir Walter Scott used the location for his 1819 novel Ivanhoe. We're then heading for the first time to Mexborough. We head north to Hooton Pagnell, to North and South Emsall. We're heading for the second time to Pontefract, famous for its licorice and Pontefract cakes, and also the home of Haribo, the sweet manufacturers, which now produce over 100 million gummy bears a day. We're heading then to Castleford, a famous rugby league town, home to Castleford Tigers, who topped the Super League table last season. We're then heading for the first time straight through the middle of Kippax. James, I think you'll like that. And we're heading then to Garforth. We're going to Garforth for the first time. We're going to Scholes, where the village will have the second intermediate sprint along Station Road, just as we did in 2016, but in the opposite direction. We're heading then to Thorner and on to Harewood, home of the Grade 2 Harwood House, which was where the 2014 Tour de France was officially started by the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge and Prince Harry, sir. We're heading then to Poole in Wharfdale, which will signal the start of the second King of the Mountains, which the peloton will tackle Côte de Old Poole Bank, which has a 1 kilometre ascent and an average gradient of 10%. We're then heading from there to Otley, which is a true hotbed of British cycling, home to the annual Otley Cycle Race and birthplace of Lizzie Deignan and current world junior champion Tom Pidcock. Otley was also a Tour de Yorkshire host town in 2016. We're heading from Otley over the river to Asquith. We're heading out towards Denton, and the race will approach Otley on the northern side of the River Wharf. We'll come in past the Lido, we'll turn left, and we'll go straight up Brook Street. At Brook Street we will bear left and we'll go up Cow Pasture Road to give you our first ever summit finish of the Tour de Yorkshire at the top of the Cow and Calf. The crowds were massive here when the race visited in 2015, and we are expecting even more memorable scenes in 2018. The climb averages 8.2% over 1.8 kilometres, and in an added twist, King of the Mountains points will also be on offer right before the stage winner is crowned on top of this iconic Yorkshire climb, which is close to the Box Street Michelin star restaurant, and we're delighted that Simon Gweller is with us here today as well. A big thank you, ladies and gentlemen, to the children of St Helens Primary School in Hoyland and Ashlands Primary School in Ilkley. Thanks, guys. Stage 3, ladies and gentlemen, goes from Richmond to Scarborough. Please welcome our school children from Richmond and Scarborough. The theme of this stage is Yorkshire's market towns. The length of the stage is 179 kilometres with a 5 kilometre neutralised start. It goes through 46 towns and villages. Excuse me, there are 2 sprints and 2 King of the Mountains, total climb of 1,800 metres. The riders will roll out of Richmond's stunning cobbled marketplace and head close to Easby Abbey before the start flag is lowered. We will then visit Catterick Garrison at the request of the British military. It's a great honour to be able to go there. It is the home to Europe's largest army garrison. The garrison was founded by Robert Baden-Powell in 1914. We then head south to Laban, which was on the opening stage of the Tour de France in 2014. From Laban we head down the A684. We're going to Bedale. We'll head through the centre of Bedale and come out towards Ayskew. Bedale, the home of the Wensleydale Heritage Railway. Our first intermediate sprint will be at Morton on Swale, contested on Northallerton Road. We'll then visit for the second time Northallerton. We'll then go to Thirsk. We'll go through the Market Square in Thirsk. Thirsk is the home of the hugely popular Channel 5 series, The Yorkshire Vet. Other Thirsk attractions include the World of James Herriot and Thirsk Racecourse, of course, one of 9 racecourses across Yorkshire. From Thirsk we head to Sutton and the Whitestone Cliff, and then we hit the climb of Sutton Bank. 1.4 kilometres at an average gradient of 12%. Anyone who's driven up it will know how punishing this ascent is, let alone cycled it. We're then heading from there to Helmsley. From Helmsley we go to Kirby Moorside, and Kirby Moorside to Pickering. We keep going straight along. We have a second intermediate sprint along Westgate in the town centre of Pickering, Pickering home to the North York Moors Railway. From Pickering we keep going to Eberston. From Eberston we go to East Ayton, and just before you get to one of the world's finest fish and chip restaurants, Walker's at East Ayton, we take a left to Hackness. And the riders will encounter their second King of the Mountains stage, just the other side of Hackness, Cote de Salfo. 1.5 kilometres at an average gradient of 8.2%. We then go to Scarborough. Scarborough has featured in every edition of the Tour de Yorkshire this year. We'll be visiting the town twice in the space of a few hours. The race will pass past the Albemarle Water Park and the open air theatre on the way into town, then head over Valley Bridge, heading out in a southerly direction. And we're pleased to be able to say that for the first time we are heading to Filey. It's very good to be able to welcome the MP for Filey, Kevin Hollinraker, who's here today. The riders will head right onto the seafront along Beach Road before heading back inland via the town centre. The race passes through Caton, Eastfield and Seamer before returning to Scarborough for the iconic run around the headland and the sprint finish for our second flat stage for a sprinter to win in Scarborough. And we think that will be a stunning stage and a fitting stage for the third stage of the Tour de Yorkshire. Will you please give a big round of applause to the children from Rysdale School in Catholic Barnsley and Grade School in Scarborough. We've probably worked out where we're going next. Stage 4. If you'll put your hands together to welcome the school children from Halifax and Leeds. Stage 4 is a beast of a stage. We've continued our tradition of naming this stage the Yorkshire Terrier. The total length is 189.5 kilometres. There'll be a 3 kilometre neutralised section at the start, so 186.5 kilometres of racing. It goes through 36 towns and villages. There are 2 sprints in Kilsey and Black Hill Road. You know that one where there was a sprint there on the very first edition that Lars Petter Nordhaug won. And there are 6 King of the Mountains. And I'll talk you through those in a moment. The total climbing on this particular stage is 3,400 metres of climbs. We'll start here at the beautiful Peace Hall in Halifax. It will provide a spectacular location for the start of this decisive stage, and the peloton will pass out past the Victoria Theatre on their way out of town. We are heading to Mythenroyd, which will be our 3rd visit to Mythenroyd, including the Tour de France, making its first appearance in the Tour de Yorkshire since 2015. The Tour de France had a feed zone here on the 2nd stage in 2014. We're then heading to Hebden Bridge, which will be our 3rd visit. This market town marks the start of the first King of the Mountains, the Côte de Hebden Bridge. 7 kilometre climb at an average gradient of 4.6%. It's the longest climb in this year's race. We head from there to Oxenhope and then to Haworth, which will be our 3rd visit to Haworth. The route passes the historic Worth Valley Railway before heading up Haworth's famous cobbled Main Street. This is the 3rd time we'll have tackled these cobbles since the Tour de France, and it always provides a spectacular view of the race. From Haworth, we're heading straight to Goose Eye. After dropping into Goose Eye, we're immediately onto the 2nd King of the Mountain, the Côte de Goose Eye. The early ramps here surpass 20% in places before settling into an average gradient of over 10% for 1.5 kilometres. From there, we head to Skipton, up the Main Street in Skipton, at the top of the Main Street in Skipton, so in the direction that the route of the Tour de France went, whereas the Tour de France turned left at the castle, we will turn right, and we're heading to MC, where we will encounter our 3rd King of the Mountains. A new King of the Mountains for us will be looming large at the Côte de Barden Moor. 1 kilometre at an average gradient of 9.5%. We're heading to Barden Tower, into the Yorkshire Dales National Park, and we're heading to Barnsley, one of many beautiful villages in Wharfdale. Barnsley was the filming location for the hit movie The Calendar Girls. From Barnsley we head to Thresfield, and the race picks up the 2014 Tour de France route at Thresfield and follows it to Kettlewell. There will be an intermediate sprint before we get to Kettlewell at Kilsey. Now, the beautiful village of Kettlewell is the start of our 4th King of the Mountains climb as we head up the Côte de Parc Rache. This is one of the hardest and most iconic climbs in the county. At 2.2 kilometres, at an average gradient of 10.5%, but touching in places 25%. We head through Coverdale to Midland. The peloton will get a great view of Midland Castle, the childhood home of Richard III, and we then head from there to the independent brewing capital of the United Kingdom, to Massam. It's great to see Joe Theakston here from Black Sheep Beer as well today. Joe, you're welcome. Massam is the home to both Theakston and Black Sheep breweries. We exit Massam, the race heads into the Nidderdale area of outstanding natural beauty. We're heading to Grulthorpe and Kirkby Malzard as we make our way to Pateley Bridge, down past the home of the world's oldest sweet shop, and the start point at the bottom of the fearsome Côte de Greenhow Hill, which is our 5th King of the Mountains. 3.3 kilometres at an average gradient of 8.2%. The race last went up the Côte de Greenhow Hill in 2016, and we are heading left at the top of Côte de Greenhow Hill to Blubberhouses, which will be our second visit to Blubberhouses, including the Tour de France. We then head from Blubberhouses to Otley, Otley getting 2 visits of the Tour de Yorkshire this year. And after passing through the town centre, we will encounter our 6th King of the Mountains. We'll commence with the Côte de Otley-Chevin, 1.4 kilometres at an average gradient of 10.3%. The climb proved pivotal in the outcome of the 2015 race, and we're hoping it will provide fireworks once again. We head then straight down Poolbank, the new Poolbank if you like. We're going to Arthington, we turn right along Arthington Lane, we pass under the viaduct and then turn right at Blacker Hill, which is our second intermediate sprint up at the top there. From there, we are heading to Addle, we turn right, we go around the back of the Lawnswood Crematorium and we pick up Spen Lane. We go straight down Spen Lane over the ring road up to Butcher Hill, we drop down past the old Hark to Rover under the railway viaduct. We then take a right down past the Abbey House Museum, down to Kirkstall Abbey, turn left onto the main road. When you come to the traffic lights, don't go straight on into town, take a right over the river and the canal, and we pick up the climb going up Cockshot Lane, straight up to Standingley Road. Very steep, very wide, massive crowds will welcome you gentlemen there. And we go along Standingley Road and drop down Canal Road. And the riders will then surge along Burley Road and head straight into the centre of Leeds, picking up the hedgerow. And the finish line of this stage and of the 2018 edition of the Tour de Yorkshire will be exactly the same as the start line of the 2014 Tour de France outside the art gallery on the hedgerow in Leeds. A big thank you, I think, is in order for the children of Ripponden Junior and Infant School and Hovingham Primary School. Now you've seen the Tour de Yorkshire stage by stage.